So, the FM26 beta, I mean, it certainly had a reaction online since it came out. If you haven't seen, a lot of it, the response to it has been quite negative. There's been some positives as well, some people quite liking it, some people not so much, for many a reason that I'll get into in this video, but a lot of you guys have been asking for our thoughts on the game, and today I'm going to give you mine. Now, this isn't representative of everyone at FM Scout, it's just my personal opinions on this game so far, whether I like it, what I do like, what I don't like, and there's a bit from both camps, to be honest. I'm going to be as balanced as I can. A spoiler here, I'm not necessarily a major hater, but I can't really say that I'm liking some of the changes they've made either, so I'm going to break all that down. It's going to be a bit of a talky video, I will say, so if you're not into that, don't worry, you'll see us in the next one with some Wonder Kids or whatever, but yeah, hopefully you'll like seeing my point of view. Now, the first thing that I need to say is, pre the beta's release, what did we know about the game? Well, I will say all the creators that you've seen online that have had alpha access, so your Omega Lukes, your Lelujos and whatnot of this world, the big creators, we didn't get that FM Scout. I didn't get it from my own personal channel either, so I had not played the alpha. The only things I'd seen were the same things you guys had, the things that Sports Interactive had released about the game, and the first video we made on the week of its release, before it came out in beta, was a reaction to all of the news articles that came out about the game, where a lot of these people that had access to the game in alpha phase at the start of October, I believe it was, said the game was riddled with bugs, and we made a video saying, should we be worried? Because the amount of bugs being reported was pretty extreme, and a lot of the comments in that video were saying, you shouldn't be worried, it's bugs in a game's development, that's normal, and I half agreed with that, I did, and only a day later, they then released a video of Spencer Owen, Jared Bowen, and Miles Jacobson playing through the game and actually playing it, as opposed to just showing us the bits they want us to see in the trailers. And there was a few things that stuck out to me as, oh, that doesn't look quite right, but everything in general to me looked okay. I'll get into why I might have changed my mind on that a little bit, but that was us trying to be positive before the game came out. I had all these worries about bugs, but then we watched someone play it a few days before release, and I thought it looked pretty good when they were playing it. And I still think that some of the aspects that they have included are good, but we got a lot of negative comments on that as well. People saying, oh, why are you giving the game praise now before you've seen it? So we had no eyes on the game. We had just seen the reactions at first saying the game wasn't great, and then saw it ourselves and thought it looked okay. Again, all my opinions, not the opinions of everyone at FM Scout. Since then, obviously the betas came out, and at the same time as you guys, I got my hands on the game for the first time. And obviously this is what we see, FM26 in its format here. Now, we had been told previously that obviously the UI was changing, the match engine was changing, and we were getting these changes to tactics and the manager-creator system. And in general, it seemed quite positive. In fact, I was someone that for a long while has been thinking that the game needs to develop in some way. And this big move to Unity that's been going on for a long time now, this isn't just a quick thing they've done over a year when they cancelled FM25. The Unity engine switch has been a long time in the making. The same went for women's football as well. They've been making that in the background for a long time, and a lot of the changes they have made to this game has been positive. Now, I'll get into those in a second, but I want to talk firstly about the negatives, and for me, it's this user interface. Now, I will say, when I saw Spencer Owen playing it with Jared Bowen, I didn't think it looked too bad, and I still stand by that now. Without a skin, I think the base skin of the new FM, the new UI, looks better than the old Football Manager. Now, a lot of you might be screaming in the comments, but don't worry, I think it looks better. It does not work better. Now, before the game came out, Sports Interactive and Miles Jacobson have made many a comment saying, you know, it's muscle memory that we like the old FM, anything new is going to feel wrong, and I kind of get that, and I do appreciate that it's going to take some time to get used to this game. But I've played it quite a lot now, made many a video on this channel and my own, and even though I've put many hours in, and I'm now used to where I need to go to find certain things, I know where to get to shortlist, I know how to get to my squad's dynamics, all of that stuff, that's great. But do I think it worked better? Even though I understand what's going on, and I actually sometimes prefer the look of some of the screens, I do not think this user interface is intuitive at all. I think it's a bit confusing, the way that some things are pop-outs and some things aren't. There's things that just don't make sense that they've removed. Like, for example, if I go to the Premier League here and I want to look at the table, and I click into this, you're going to expect a full table like we used to see. And instead you get this kind of horrible screen, which doesn't look great at all. And that's one of many examples. And I know this this isn't the be-all and end-all, this one screen here, but there's many examples of screens like this where I just think that I just don't understand why it's changed or why they're looking the way they are. Now, obviously, I'm not having to go at the humans behind developing this game. I couldn't develop a game, so God knows how these people do it. But I think we can separate having a go at someone that's made the game and also just not being happy with what we've seen and what we've paid for. Now, I still think value for money wise, FM is one of the best value for money games in terms of the hours you'll put in. And of course, there is the argument that this is still technically in beta and the game doesn't come out until the start of November. And there's a lot of this stuff that might be fixed. And that's why I'm not really covering bugs too much in this video, because a lot of these bugs will be fixed by the game coming out. And they've already fixed quite a lot of them, like the crashes and whatnot. But the amount of bugs reported was a little bit concerning and does prove that we were kind of right in that video we made of saying that should we be worried about FM because of all the bugs? And kind of, yeah, because a lot of these bugs are still there. Some things I don't understand how they slip through the net, like the back button's not working and some screens not featuring back buttons. That just seems bonkers to me. But in general, whilst I do prefer the look of FM26 over FM24 in most screens, I just think the way that they work and the clunkiness of them takes away from the fact that it looks a little bit better. Now, a lot of people do use skins on FM24, and hopefully when we're eventually able to have skins modded in for FM26, it will look better, but we shouldn't be relying on skins to make a game look good. Now, you could just say it's personal preference in terms of things that look nice and whatnot, but it's purely functionality-based stuff that I think makes no sense. Like, if you want to have a team meeting now, you can't go to team meeting the way that you'd expect. You can't search for team meeting, I don't believe. I can see an email about the time when we were asked to hold a team meeting, but if I want to hold one out of nowhere, you used to be able to do it. Now, I'm sure I saw someone post a YouTube short showing you how to do it, but the fact that these things aren't immediately obvious to me are the things I don't like. There was the same thing as well where I had an issue where I wanted to take a player's playing time down. So, you know, in old FMs, if you didn't know, if you'd agreed regular start with Amad Diallo, you could change that if you wanted to, and you could see before you do it, what's his reaction going to be? Is he going to be okay with now being a squad player? Maybe a few years in, we've signed a better right winger, and now you can't really get to that screen as obviously. I found it purely through trial and error by clicking on regular starter here, and then you kind of get this screen pop up where it's not very obvious what's going on. Now, he's apparently happy with important player. The suggested one currently is regular starter. If I try and change it to squad player, you can't just click this. Instead, you have to go over to this guy, ask him to change it, and then you get the message saying he could become unhappy, but you don't get the information that you used to, where it used to tell you this one would be okay, this one would be okay, and these wouldn't. And I just don't see why they'd change those things. That's what bothers me. It's not like, oh, they forgot to do it. It's that they've changed it and they've made it work differently, and you have to click more buttons to get to certain stuff. And the UI as a whole, I consider personally to be a failure, the way that it works. I don't think it's built for a PC community. It seems to be built for console, and I think there was even a post by Football Manager where it said, bonus tip, try playing the game with a controller because the game has been built to work better on controllers than ever. And I just kind of don't like that. And I know you have to move with the times and the fact that, you know, this is on console and it's popular with younger people now on console, but there's a big core audience of PC players that have kept this game going for a while, and it feels like they've been kind of alienated a little bit. So I definitely prefer the old UI. But saying that, in an ideal world, I would take the FM24 user interface and the way that it functioned. Again, I don't mind the way it looks sometimes in FM26, but functionality is a big problem. It's not intuitive. But yes, I would like to take the FM24 user interface and combine it with the other improvements they've made for FM26. So for me, women's football, it's a nice bonus. I know there's some people that get a bit annoyed that it's there and whatnot, but at the end of the day, if you don't want to play it, you don't have to. It's just an option for people that want to. It's more players, more teams to manage, and it should be there with how popular it's getting and whatnot. Why wouldn't it? So women's football, a great improvement. But the two big changes I know a lot of people are loving, and I am too, are the tactical changes and the match engine, which we'll get on to my thoughts on that in a minute. But tactically, I really like what they've done. Now, I love the in and out of possession. Would I have preferred in and out of possession tactics using the old look? Probably more so, and I don't think that comes from a place of me being, you know, hung up on the way that it used to look. I just don't think it looks as intuitive as before. I mean, you're already seeing a few glitches here where, like, players aren't popping up and whatnot in possession. But if I want to go to team instructions now and change it, to me, as much as this might be more in-depth and you can click on different phases of the game and see what your team's going to do in those phases, I just don't think these look as intuitive as it previously used to. Like, this is harder for a new player to understand and an experienced player than it used to when it was all quite visual and you could push the line up manually. You could see the arrows of when you were telling your players to play out wide or play through the fence or play through the middle. This doesn't look as good to me, but I do love the fact you can do in and out of possession. So I'm a bit torn on tactics, but I like the improvements they've made. Again, in an ideal world, you'd be able to do in and out of possession, but using FM24 the way they used to. Now, I know they moved engine and it was a big change and things had to look semi-new to make all the fuss that was going around moving on to a new engine worth it. And they have said that this is just the start of the next 20 years for FM and they're going to build on it and make it better. And that's great. But I just think there's some quality of life stuff that really should be improved, and while some bugs and whatnot might be fixed in beta, I can't see them changing the way their user interface works this close to the release of the game. So far, the UI I'm not a fan of. The tactics, I like the changes they've made, but I think it could look better. And then we got on to the other major change, which was the match engine. Now, I'm aware it's still not perfect, and there's been some bugs and whatnot, but I'm personally a big fan of this. Again, it's not at the same level of other games out there, AAA games and whatnot, but I look at this and I think it's a bigger improvement. There's still a bit of ice skating going on, but I think the match engine is a huge improvement on previous years. It's what we've been asking for, improved graphics, player animations. I feel more like I'm watching a game of football nowadays, and when I make my own videos on my channel where I show some games that have happened, I think it looks better than it used to. I think that's almost a given, and I'm happy with those changes in that sense. I think the match engine is a huge improvement, and that should not be discounted. So for me, in an ideal world, they would have had the new match engine. You can see how long that screen just took them, by the way. That's the kind of thing that's bothering me on this game. I do keep going on a tangent, I know, but I am quite passionate about this, and obviously it's a game that is half of my career, really, as well. So yeah, I love it, you guys love it as well, so it's only fair that I can have opinions on it, even though I'm a creator. And I mean, it's probably obvious already the way I'm talking about it, but just to make it clear, for those people that always comment, we are not paid by Sports Interactive in any way, and in fact, I imagine it's illegal for me to say I'm not if we actually were. So I can tell you, we are not paid by Sports Interactive. Here at FMSCOUT on my own channel, again, never had alpha access. I haven't had any real communication with the Sports Interactive team in that sense either, so there's no reason for me to pretend with any of my feelings in any of that kind of way, and I don't think any of the other creators are made to do that either. In fact, you'll see some of the biggest creators who had alpha access have been quite outspoken about the game, so fair play for that. So I think the UI is poor and not intuitive. I think the tactics are better, but maybe could be tweaked a little bit to look better and make more sense to both new and experienced players, and the match engine is a big plus. It just bugs me how long certain screens take to load and how sometimes it's just not really looking the way it should. It almost feels like I'm fighting against a game sometimes to make anything happen. Take, for example, in a lot of my videos, and I saw Omega Luke spoke about this on Twitter, if I want to show the Premier League after I've won it or whatever, normally you can just click onto competitions and it shows you everything in detail, all your competitions. It doesn't look as crap as this looks here, I'll be honest, it used to look way better, but let's say I want to show off the Premier League. I'll click into it, and then when you click into it, you get this information here. It used to show the top 3 highest scorers. Now, if I want to see that, I have to go into this section. I then have to go into player stats. And then here, I'm not even really seeing top goal scorers. I'm seeing best performers, yes, but I'm not really seeing goal scorers anywhere. You can maybe go to team goals. But you see what I mean? Like, none of this is really making sense the way that it functions. It used to be, you go to the Premier League and you'd see top 3 scorers, click one button, you can see the rest. Top 3 assisters, click one button, you'd see the rest. Recent results is cool, news is cool, but it just doesn't look right to me. And I'll show you another thing that makes no sense. Now, this save is a couple years on, and spoilers, with my Man United team, we achieve Europe and whatnot. I mean, I'm trying to click the competitions tab, it's just not loading here. There we go, it finally has. But it tells me I was knocked out in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup in small writing. It's not immediately obvious what happened. It should maybe be there where it says recent form. Maybe they could change the way it looks. And the same with all the other competitions, but then the Prem, I know you can see on the home screen the table, but here, if I'm going to the competitions tab, I should see straight away where we finished, which just says competition finished. I then go into it, and then I can see, but again, it just feels like too many clicks, and it feels like I'm fighting against the game to find any information I want. I know it's nitpicking, but I imagine a lot of you guys have had the same experience. To get to certain screens, to do the things we used to do, it's just harder, it's more work, and to me, even though they say after a while you'll get used to it, I'm used to it. I know where to click. It doesn't mean it's right, and I think that's the case for a lot of FM so far. And I imagine we're past the point of being able to change a lot of this stuff, so I am hoping over the course of this game's life cycle, they spoke about regular updates, not just bug fixes. Once the game comes out, take community feedback into action, reply to the community, be open and honest about things that you thought would work and have got wrong. The game is mainly PC-led, and it has been for a number of years, and I get they want to make it more accessible to consoles and whatnot, but I just don't think this is the way to go about it. I think some things need to be fixed, and it almost feels like some things have been overlooked and rushed, and the fact they've had 2 years to make the game, and I know there's been changes, and they've had to rework the UI, and as Miles Jacobson said, a lot of games take way longer than 2 years to make. Yes, they do. But this isn't The Last of Us. This is not having a back button on a screen. Like, I feels like a lot of things have been overlooked and almost rushed out. Again, I know it is beta and early access, and I'm probably waffling on, but I feel like even still, some of this stuff should be fixed by now. They've got just over a week, really, before the game goes live properly, depending on when this video comes out. And it just feels like, yes, they'll fix some of the bugs, but there's still going to be some bugs left over unless they work overtime, and credit to them for how quick they are working to fix them. But some of these UI problems aren't going to go away unless the UI changes, and I don't see that being a fix before release. So yes, I love the match engine, I like the tactical improvements, but a lot of the other stuff is dragging it down. You spend most of your time in the UI, in the menus, and for that not to function well, it's not a good look. That's my personal opinion. I'm not a hater. I'm not loving it either. I'm somewhere in the middle. Some things I like, some things I don't. Let me know in the comments your thought though, and try and be balanced. I know it's easy to sometimes be really, I'm against this, or I really love it. And the same way, like if you're a football fan in your team, you know, you back your team to the very end. You hate on your rivals. But in this case, try and be balanced. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you don't like. If you really don't like anything, tell me that. If you're liking some aspects, I want to hear it. I want to know all your thoughts down below. But that's me. Sorry, I know I've waffled on. It is a bit of a talky video. Hopefully you've got some out of it. But that's my thoughts. We're not paid by Sports Interactive. We hadn't seen the alpha. This is our first time seeing it. I'm impressed by some things, not so much by others. But hopefully it will get better.